Guys, I finished The Best Book, and it was not even on my Friday reads because I just heard about it later and ended up picking it up. I was watching Sarah's channel. Her channel is Your True Shelf, and I will link that below. I must have been already subscribed to her, but sometimes if someone recommends someone, I will subscribe to them before I even watch their channel, just because I really trust someone's reviews and stuff like that and their opinions. And so I have no idea who told me about her channel, but I was already subscribed to her and I just found one of her videos for the first time this weekend and ended up watching them, and I just freaking adore her. She does a lot of vlogs, which I really like, and she's basically like a 30-something mom, doctor, and loves to read. So I really enjoy her videos. Oh, she's also a vegan, which is what I'm striving to be. It's hard sometimes, but anyway, I'm working towards being a vegan. So anyway, in her channel, she has mentioned that she's a doctor, and she was reading this one book in one of her really old videos called This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, and I happened to have an arc of it and I just never got around to it. So I was really excited to read it this weekend. I was just hoping for something lighter. Some of the books that I was saying I was going to read, I'm sure they're amazing books, but it just wasn't the best time. I just wanted something light and summery and more of a memoir or something that I could get through. And so that's exactly what this is. And I don't have a picture of it just because it's on my Kindle. But it's a memoir of a doctor in the UK. In the United Kingdom, they have a National Health Service, I think is what it's called. Yep, National Health Service. And he is a doctor there, and so it's just a memoir of the author going through, he's already graduated from medical school and just going through his beginning years as a doctor and training and all that stuff. And it takes place from August 2004 until December 2010. So it's around 6 years, a little over 6 years. So the book starts off with a major spoiler, which is hilarious. Literally the first sentence is, in 2010, after 6 years of training and a further 6 years of struggling it out on the hospital wards, I quit my job as a doctor. And just to give you kind of an idea for his writing, he writes so many serious things about being a doctor, but the way he says some of these things are just hilarious. And so he tells you he's no longer a doctor, and then he says a few sentences later, sorry for the spoiler, by the way, but you knew the iceberg was coming in Titanic, and you watched that all the same. So the reason that he wrote this is just to give people a glimpse into what it's like to be a doctor. He says, I truly believe that anyone who ever has or ever will encounter a doctor should better understand what it's like to be on the other side of the scalpel, should get to peek under the scrubs, the gloves, and the calm demeanor. So he basically just wants to fill you in on what things are like as a doctor. But what I found really interesting was just because he's a doctor in the UK, and I didn't realize that medicine was so different there. Obviously, many countries have a universal healthcare system, and the UK is one of them. So they have the National Health Service. And basically, if you want to become a doctor, you decide at age 16 that you want to become a doctor. And I'm not sure when exactly medical school starts, if high school ends when you're 18, just like it does kind of in the US. And then you start medical school, or if you're ending a couple years of high school change because you said you wanted to be a doctor. I'm not sure about that, but I do know that you do not go to undergrad like we do in the US. You go straight into medical school. So in the US version of this book, there is this little table that he created. Adam talks about how he spent 2 hours trying to figure out how to make a table on Microsoft Word. So he's cracking jokes just the whole time. But it gives the US terminology and then the UK terminology, just so you can understand throughout the book how he's going through the process. So in the US, you start as an intern, and in the UK, it's called a house officer or junior doctor. And then after your intern, then you become a resident in the US. But in the UK, it's called senior house officer, or yeah, I don't know. I think it's just called senior house officer. And then you become a fellow in the US, and the UK, you're a registrar. and possibly then after that a senior registrar. And then in the US you would become an attending physician, but in the UK it's called a consultant, and that's like when you're really fancy. The other thing I thought was interesting about how the UK does things, which this part does not sound so smart, is they have something called Black Wednesday, and that's a day when if you are a junior doctor, you all switch to another assignment all on the same day. So every single junior doctor is brand new on their job, and it's basically like the first Wednesday in August, and there are known to be more deaths on that day because there's so many people that have no idea what they're doing because they're at a new hospital or in a new position. The other thing I thought was interesting was just the pay of UK doctors, because all these people in America seem to think that universal healthcare will not work, and yet we have all these other countries that seem to be doing it and it is working. And I don't know why we aren't learning from them, but anyway, I did think the pay was interesting, and I'm curious if that makes universal healthcare a bit more accessible or something. I googled how much a GP would make in the UK, and it seems like it's around, in US dollars, around 80 to 100K, and that just seems pretty low for me. Like that's definitely, like, where I live anyway, that's higher than like a starting teacher would make, but it's pretty similar to a teacher like towards the end of their career, and I just thought that doctors would make much more. I honestly have no idea what they make in the US, but I always assume that they started at like 6 figures. So another thing is that throughout the book, I just kept thinking how similar his job was as a doctor to my job as a teacher. Obviously, I'm not like saving lives or anything, but there is a great deal of stress and crazy things that happen involving being a teacher of kids with behavior difficulties. And also, like, the pay situation was kind of similar as well. Like, I thought that doctors in the UK were paid much lower than I thought they would be, like I already said. And because it's taxpayers' money, teachers are also often paid less than people think they should be paid, especially after coronavirus, when all these parents are teaching from home and they're like, oh my gosh, we value teachers so much. But the other thing that was really similar is just the working hours. Like, obviously teachers are not going to miss vacations or events and things like that. Like he talked about in the book that he would miss like parties, and he would like commit to going to a bachelor party or something like that, and then at the last minute would have to stop because he needs to go into surgery. But I do think this expectation was similar, that teachers are expected to work beyond their like start and stop time contractually. It's just expected. Like there's nothing, I mean, that's what you do, and if work needs to be done outside of contractual hours, it's expected. And the same was true for doctors there. Like, they would work all this time for free, which honestly, that makes their salary even lower technically if they're working all these hours for free. In the book, Adam talks about going home after a day's work and how you'll normally just like chat with your partner about how your day has been. He kind of monopolizes the conversation, because when his partner is talking, it says they know as soon as they start on their workplace quibbles, which presumably don't involve any near-death experiences unless they're tightrope walkers, firefighters, or counter staff at a drive-through Burger King, you'll reflexively talk about the horrors of your own day. Basically because you have been like dealing with life-death situations and you need to get it off your chest. He also discusses that a lot of the stress is just due to not enough staffing, and so all the hospitals run on basically what he calls a skeleton staff. But then this is what he says. He says, actually, that's unfair to skeletons. It's more like when they dig up the remains of a Neolithic man and reconstruct what he might have looked like from a piece of clavicle and a thumb joint. So like I said, there's a lot of serious aspects of this book. Some are about patients and traumatic things that happen to patients, and other just about the difficulties of being a doctor. And I'm sure this is true for the US too. But one of the things that he shares that I find heartbreaking is in 2015, a study by the Medical Protection Society showed that 85% of doctors have experienced mental health issues and 13% admitted to suicidal feelings. Adam is really conflicted about if he's going to stay in medicine or leave, mainly because he's worked so hard to get to where he is. And unlike in the US, there's no like undergrad degree to give you kind of like a foundation. You've only been to medical school. And the other thing is like he's saving lives, so what is more important than that? But as you know from the spoiler, that is the first sentence, he does end up leaving. But I think the thing I liked about this book so much was that it was just full of so much humor, and it was making me laugh all the time, even when there were really serious situations going on. And I also like seeing myself in books, and this is like probably TMI, but this just reminded me so much of myself, and I need to calm myself down. But he says, a lot of individuals, I'm not calling them patients, there's nothing wrong with them, come to the hospital under the misapprehension that they are in some way ill. They're known as the worried well. If this is because of something they've read online, they're called cyberchondriacs. I am totally a cyberchondriac. I need to stop Googling whenever I have something wrong with me. But anyway, yeah, there are horrible, horrific scenes in here that are serious, and there's also just like horrible blood spattering things that end up turning out okay in the end. But I really enjoyed stepping into someone else's life and hearing what it was like to have their career and to be a doctor, because that's something I could never do, mainly because of all he talks about blood splatter. Anyway, if you're looking for kind of a lighter, I don't know that I would call it lighter because there's a lot of serious topics too, but just like a memoir that's going to make you laugh while also kind of touching your heart, I would definitely suggest this one. I'm curious what memoirs you've read recently and what you do when you kind of need a break from like more serious reading. I'll see you guys later. Bye.